Right, let me share my screen. Okay. All right. So Ankurji, we can make him co-host today because he's going to do a presentation as well. All right, so let's get started. Very warm welcome to all of you. Good morning, good evening. We'll get started by invoking the blessings of God and Guru. Gurur Brahma, Gurur Vishnu, Guru Devo Maheshwara, Guru Sakshat Parabrahma, Tasmai Shri Guruve Namaha. Vasudeva Sutam Devam Kamsachanurmardanam Devaki Paramanandam Krishnam Vande Jagadgurum Krishnam Vande Jagadgurum. Radhe Radhe. Good morning, good evening again, everyone. Welcome to today's edition of Daily Wisdom from Bhagavad Gita. Let's get started. We've been talking about the concept of soul, and today we'll go a step further where Lord Krishna, after having imparted him the knowledge of soul and how is it different from the gross element, which is the body, he moves on, and we are going to cover multiple shlokas today, but I'll cover the gist of those shlokas by picking a one shloka so that we can come to the completion of the Sankhya Yoga aspect of it and then move on to the science of work. So if you look at it, Lord Krishna starts by telling Arjuna what his true identity is and why it is not a cause for lamentation and it is born out of ignorance when he thinks that somebody is going to get killed. Okay? That too in a war. Because if you look at it, soul is immortal, eternal, and that is the science that Lord Krishna has been explaining to Arjuna. So let's get moving today. Now Lord Krishna is going to introduce a newer concept. We're going to talk about dharma, swadharma aspect of it. What is the duty aspect of our life based on the station of life that we are in? That is what we are going to discuss. I'm going to recite the shloka and then you're welcome to follow along. Swa-Dharmapi Chavekshya na vikampitum-arhasi dharmyadhi yuddha shreyontya kshatriyasya na vidyate. All right. So do we have any volunteers who want to go for a little bit of a tongue twister today? Yes, please.
Radhe Radhe, Vanmala ji, please go ahead.
Radhe Radhe.
Radhe Radhe, Vanmala ji.
Swadharmamapi chaveksha na vikampitum-arhasi dharmyadi yuddha shreyo anyat kshatriyasya na vidyate. Radhe Radhe.
Very nice, thank you, Vanmala ji.
Radhe Radhe, Kastub ji, please go ahead.
Radhe Radhe. Swadharmapi chavekshana vikampitum-arhasi dharmyadharti yudhachayon yachatriyasya na vidyate.
Wonderful, Kastub Mani ji. All right, we can take a few more hands.
Radhe Radhe, Sandhya ji, please go ahead.
Radhe Radhe.
Radhe Radhe.
Swadharmapi chavekshana vikampiturmarhasi dhamyadhiyudhyacheyo anyat kshatriyasya na vidyate.
Yeah, so the meter, the way it goes like is, it's dharmyadhi, then yuddha shreyonyat. Then kshatriyasya na vidyate. So it's a bit of a tongue twister, but yeah, well done. Okay, we can take maybe 2 or 3 more hands. We have a hard stop at 10 and we have some content to cover and we have a presentation. So a lot to do. Maybe we'll take 3 more hands.
Radhe Radhe, Levani ji, please go ahead.
Radhe Radhe.
Radhe Radhe.
Radhe Radhe. Swadharmam apicha vekshya navikampitum arhasi dharmyadhi yudhache shreyonyat kshatriyasya na vidyate.
That was pretty nice. Wonderful, Levani ji.
Thank you.
You got the gist of it. Okay, we can take 2 more hands.
Radhe Radhe, Uday ji, please go ahead.
Radhe Radhe. Swadharmam api chaveksha na vikampitum arhasi dharmyadi yuddachrenyot kshatriyasya na vidyate. Radhe
Very
Radhe.
nice. Radhe Radhe. Okay.
Radhe
Let's quickly cover all 3, then full stop after this. Someshi, real quick.
Yeah.
स्वधर्मपि चावेक्ष्य न विकम्पितुमर्हसि धर्म्यादियुद्धधाक्षेयोन्यत् क्षत्रियस्य न विद्यते. Thank you, Radhe Radhe.
Radhe Radhe. Very nice, Someshi. Okay, we have 2 more hands. We can quickly take them.
Radhe Radhe.
Radhe Radhe.
Radhe Radhe.
Radhe Radhe.
Radhe Radhe.
स्वधर्मपि चापेक्ष्य न विकम्पितुमर्हसि धर्म्यादधियुद्धाश्रेयो नेयक्षत्रियस्य न विद्यते.
All right, very nice. We can take 1 more hand because we have some content to cover. Yes.
Radhe Radhe.
Radhe Radhe.
Swadharmam api chaveksha na vikampitum arhasi dharmati yuddha shreyo nyatya kshatriya sada vidyate. Radhe Radhe, thank
Radhe
you.
Radhe. Very nice. Thank you. 2 more hands. I see. Okay, we will take 2 more. Let's quickly do that.
Radhe Radhe, Riya ji, please go ahead.
Thank you, Radhe Radhe. Swadharmam api chavekshya na vikapitum arhasi dharmyadhiyadach shreyo kshatriyasya na vidyate. Radhe
Right.
Radhe.
Radhe Radhe. Okay, last but not the least, Anita ji.
Radhe Radhe.
Radhe Radhe.
Radhe Radhe.
Swadharmapi chaveksha navikampitumārhasi dharmyadhidudhayadhyenyo yakshatriyasya na vidyate.
Very nice. Thank you, Anita ji. So let's get started. So in this shloka, after having given him the knowledge about the soul, Lord Krishna goes on to say that besides, he said, all right, even if you, let's say you don't buy into this understanding that soul is immortal, right? You consider yourself as a body only. He's not saying that, but he says besides, he's giving another argument to support that, like a good teacher. First of all, he's saying you are a soul. So the very understanding that soul will be slain is incorrect. And then he takes it from another angle. It's called a flanking approach, where he's saying, besides, considering your duty as a warrior, you should not waver. And then he goes on to add, indeed, for a warrior, there is no better engagement than fighting for upholding of righteousness. Now he's beckoning him by giving him a call of duty based on the situation and based on the station of life Arjun is in. Okay, so he's giving him a call of duty. First of all, the soul aspect has been explained, and now the call of duty is what Lord Krishna is beckoning Arjun with. Okay, so let's move on and get deeper into the topic today. So this is what we are going to talk a little bit about today, is being dutiful beautiful. Okay, if you do duty, is it good? And what is a duty also as well, right? So here you see, okay, Just a trivia question. Why did the coffee spill? Okay, you can think about it. Nobody has to answer that. Why did it spill? You can watch it again. It spilled. There could be a lot of reasons around it, right? You may want to think about it, and there's a reason for this question as well. Okay, so let's move on. Somebody might have distracted this person, or something came up, could be carelessness. There's so many reasons, right? Creativity is the limit around it. All right, coffee did spill, we know, and why is you have to think, but you can suspend your thinking for a while. So let's get into the topic today. 2.31, Lord Krishna is saying, besides, he's considering your duty as a warrior, you should not waver. We have spoken about it. 2.32, he says, Parth, happy are the warriors to whom such opportunities to defend righteousness come unsought, opening for them the stairway to the celestial abodes. So if somebody is positioned to defend their motherland, it's a very coveted position to be in. It doesn't come everyone's way. And it is said that whoever dies fighting for the sake of their duty, they go to celestial abodes. Everybody in Kurukshetra, whoever fought, they went to celestial abodes. And all the soldiers, martyrs, they go to celestial abodes. It's a huge thing. You are laying down your life for the sake of your duty. So God has reserved a good price for it. Okay. Now, then he says, so both aspects of it, what you stand to gain and then what you stand to lose. Lord Krishna, like a good teacher, he explains the concept from all the angles. Now, in this one, he's saying, if however you refuse to fight this righteous war, abandoning your social duty and reputation, you will certainly incur sin. He says that will be sinful activity. And he goes on to say, you will attract infamy as well, because people will say that he was a coward and a deserter. And if anybody is respectable, then infamy is considered worse than a death. Right? People who have lived with honor, infamy is something even worse than death for them. That's what Lord Krishna is telling him. And then he further on goes on to say that the great generals who hold you in high esteem will think that you fled from the battlefield out of fear, and you will lose respect around it as well. Okay, I'm just doing a quick coverage because it's a recap session for chapter 2, and I'm just going to touch upon the salient aspects without going too deep into that. So, but at least we are able to follow along what's happening here. And then he goes on to say, your enemies will defame and humiliate you with unkind words, disparaging your might. What could be more painful for that? So he's telling him what are the possibilities or ramifications if he runs away from this war. And then he says, you have laddu in both of your hands. Why? Because if you fight the battle and you win the war, a throne is waiting for you. And if you are slain on the battlefield, celestial abodes are waiting for you. Okay. So in either case, you have everything to gain here. Okay? Lord Krishna is telling him that. And then he says, fight or for the sake of your duty, treating like happiness and distress, loss and gain, victory and defeat. Fulfilling your responsibility in this way, you will never incur sin. So he's saying if you perform your duty without, with the sake of the duty, not for the sake of happiness, or you'll feel distressed or you'll feel happy if you loss or gain, rise above these things and you fight. We'll get into this concept much more deeper, but this is where the Sankhya Yoga culminates basically at 2.39. And then Lord Krishna concludes by saying, I have explained to you Sankhya Yoga or analytic knowledge regarding the nature of the soul. Now listen, O Parth, as I revealed Buddhi Yoga or the yoga of intellect. When you work with such understanding, you will be freed from the bondage of karma. So Sankhya Yoga ends there and Buddhi Yoga starts, which we are going to discuss in more detail next week. Today we are going to talk about the concept of duty that Lord Krishna is calling upon, and he's using the call of duty to encourage Arjun to fight the war and not run away. Okay. Now let's get into what are the key learnings here. So if you look at it, the warrior class, Kshatriya, they are there for protecting the society. So like every society has Kshatriyas, every country has a naval fleet and an army and everything. Similarly, Kshatriyas, their occupational duty is to defend the citizens. Okay? Even if it means they have to lay down their lives for the protection of society. And warriors were allowed to go in forest and practice warfare. Okay, this is the question that came up. They are the only ones who had an exception. to kill them for the sake of practicing. Okay, this is a deeper concept, but for another day. And basically, it's their duty. If you're a warrior, it is your duty to protect the citizens and not run away from that duty. And it is not spiritual. See, when you discharge your occupational duty, it is not a spiritual act. And it does not result in God realization. Okay, let's understand that. It is merely a virtuous deed with positive material rewards. Because what do you get? Celestial abodes. And Arjun is going to challenge Krishna on this. He is going to tell that, okay, what am I going to do with the celestial abodes? Because it is temporary. That question will come later on. But let's understand, when you perform your duty, it is not an act that will lead you to God realization. It is a noble act. So let me put it in perspective. Performing duty is called a hygiene criteria of justifying our existence on this earth. If we don't even perform duties based on the station of life that we are in, then we are not doing the bare minimum that is required of us as a human being. So it's a boot camp. If you have to climb Mount Everest, that is the basic thing, the boot camp you have to do, right? As part of being humans, performing your duties in conjunction, based on the injunction of our scriptures, what you need to do at particular station of your life. That is what Lord Krishna is saying, that you are a warrior, you are a Kshatriya, and it falls upon you to protect the citizens. Like Prithviraj Chauhan, when he fought battles, he continued to spare Muhammad Ghori, I guess, yeah, he was the one. He continued to do that 17 times. 18th time, he was defeated. And guess what? He killed him. And when he killed him, there was a lot of plunder, atrocities of women, and those kind of things happened. So one could argue, was that a misplaced compassion, or did he really discharge his duty? Because end of the day, it resulted in a lot of atrocities on his own people. Right? So warriors are supposed to protect their citizens. That is a duty, and that is what Lord Krishna is telling Arjun in this case. And he brings this instructions a step lower. That even if, let's say, Arjun, you are not interested in spiritual teaching, like soul and all that stuff, people, they say, okay, what is this concept that you're talking about? Deeper concept. So Krishna takes a lower step now. He said, all right, I've given you the science of soul. Okay, but let's take a step back and say that if you are not interested in that deep level spiritual teaching, let me take a step back and tell you, at a bodily platform, you are a Kshatriya, you are a warrior, and you need to act in accordance with what is righteousness in this kind of a situation. So it's a step lower instruction. Let's understand that. Let's not think that is a higher instruction. It's a lower instruction. Following your duties is at the platform of a body. It's not at the platform of the soul as yet. And we will call out that difference very clearly. So the word, if you look at it in Shloka, Swa-Dharma is being called, and that's what we are going to look at. So contrary to popular belief that Gita sends us, will make us sannyasi, it's a call to action. Okay. What is Lord Krishna telling him? He's telling him this sannyas stuff is not going to work. You have to swing into action, not to inaction. And he's saying that, people who are exposed to spirituality, they often ask this, are you going to ask me to give up my work now? That verse after verse, Lord Krishna is giving Arjun the reverse instruction, not to give up your work, but to perform your work, right? As it relates to your duty. Then he's going to add the science of work as well. What is the consciousness in which you need to operate is what he's going to add later on. First of all, he's saying you need to work. Inaction is not an option. So as per your spiritual duty, swing into action. That's what Lord Krishna is telling Arjun in this case. And it is the internal change, that Lord Krishna is asking for in the consciousness, not an external renunciation of works. And we'll get into that detail, not today, but next week we are going to spend a good amount of time on the Buddhi Yoga aspect of it. All right, so let's continue. Swa-Dharma is the word that is introduced in the shloka, Swa-Dharma. So it really boils down from your understanding of whom you consider Swa, that is yourself. If you consider yourself as a body, yes, there are certain dharmas related with that. If you consider you are a soul and you are situated in that truth and that understanding, then there is a different set of duties. So depending upon what you consider Swa at this stage of your life, those set of rules will apply on you. Okay, so let's look at it that way. One's duty as an individual in accordance with the Vedas. Now there is something called Paradharma, which is spiritual duties. If you think yourself, you are a soul. And then there is other set of, so this duties entails considering oneself to be the soul, prescribed duty to love and serve God. It's very simple. If you're a soul, you're a fragment part of God. And if you're part of God, your sole duty is to serve the whole. So loving and serving God is the only duty at that point, if you consider yourself as a soul. However, not everybody is situated in that truth. Then the Apara Dharma applies. What is the Apara Dharma? That is the material duties that we are talking about for people with conditioned souls. Conditioned means they are not yet situated in that truth that they are soul. Yes, they have learned about it. They have been reading about it. They've been thinking about it. They've been contemplating about it. They have read it multiple times, but they are not yet situated in that truth. There's a difference between having realized that thing and actually knowing it, simply knowing it. So for those material duties or mundane duties are prescribed or provided by our scriptures. What are those? It is for the vast majority, as you would see for humankind, they don't possess the spiritual perspective. Vedas also prescribe duties for those who see themselves as a body. So there's a difference between two. That's the key thing, key message on this slide. Swadharma depending upon what you consider Swa, that is driven by what is your realization at a particular point in life. That dharma is applicable to you. Okay. Now in devotion, if you are trying to intellectually convince yourself that you are a part of God and you just need to love and serve God and that is the only thing you're going to focus on, of course it changes the dynamics. Okay. But our material duties continue, are considered basically relevant, because if you don't have that understanding, you're not on that path, you're not trying it, then material duties is something you have to do as a bare minimum that is required of humans, so as to not incur sin if you run away from that. Okay, so that is the concept of Swa-Dharma. Now we juggle multiple duties throughout the day. We do that throughout the day, we do that. And so the distinction between spiritual and material duties, it needs to be kept in mind while understanding the Bhagavad Gita and the Vedic philosophy at large. Okay, it's very important to understand the distinction between these two. In this case, Arjun is a warrior and his occupational duty as a warrior to fight and protect the citizens. And Lord Krishna is calling his Swadharma prescribed duty at a bodily level. Okay, we have to really understand that part. Some people will get stuck to this aspect alone in Bhagavad Gita for the rest of their lives. Right? Lord Krishna asking him to fight, so we have to fight our enemy. All right, that is good, but you are still operating at a bodily platform. Right? When we pick up an agenda in life based on our religion, based on our identification, that is still operating at a body level. That is the key concept to be understood here. Okay, so patriotism and all that stuff is good because we have rin, right? Matri rin, Pitri rin, three rins, we talked about Bhut rin. All that is good, but it's not spiritual. Okay? That needs to be understood. No matter how much jazba you have, how much enthusiasm you have about that, it is a good thing. If you don't have anything else to do in life, that is fine. But the highest dharma is at the level of soul, when you are actually thinking or dovetailing your intentions, your energies, your emotions, your efforts towards God. There's no higher dharma than that. But yeah, I mean, if you want to exhaust our other vasanas and pick up any other agendas, that's fine. It could be noble, it may not be noble. There may be bitterment, there may be resentment, bitterness, and all that stuff will come. So you take a call on that, because there are no free lunches, right? Everything has a price tag to it. So you may be doing some good, some bad, mix of all, but you are still operating in material realm. It's not that you are transcending beyond that. So let's be very clear around that. Okay. Now, let's move on. Now, here, Krishna is advising Arjun, this fight is not an ordinary fight. This is a dharma. You should not accept it. I mean, you should accept it, and you should not hesitate. So he's saying it's a bigger picture around this war that you're fighting. It's not just about Arjun taking revenge from Duryodhan or anybody, or Arjun fighting a battle so because he wants a kingdom. Okay, he's a ruler. It goes much beyond that. Okay, it's about resurrection of society at that point in time. That is why it is needed, and you need to fight it with that consciousness. So it's important to have a clear consciousness as to why you're doing something. And there's a beautiful story of Swami Mukund. Swamiji has joined. All right, somebody has named that. I don't know who's that. So it's not that there's a beautiful story of I think Guru Gobind Singh. Is fighting a battle, and then the enemy who was when they were fighting it, he was at his mercy at that point. And just about when he was about to kill him, after a protracted or a long battle, this guy spit back at him. And when he spit back at him, he spared him. He just moved away. So the soldier asked him, why did you move away? He was at your mercy. You could have killed him. He said that because when he spit back at him, I felt a rage of anger. And in that consciousness, if I had killed him, I would have incurred a sin. So that was his mindfulness or an understanding. So even when we are fighting a battle, if it is for the sake of your duty, then you get good results. If it is with the resentment, bitterness, hatred, vengeance, then you are incurring the sin. So that is it. Now God is going to raise the game, and he's going to tell Arjun in what consciousness he should be fighting it, because Buddhi Yoga is where we are going to talk about this concept in greater detail. All right. So talking about that, now let's move on. Okay, why is this coffee spilled? This thing keeps coming back. Anybody who wants to give it a shot, why is this coffee spilling? Or maybe not. We'll get back to it next week, okay? Let it be a suspense. Okay, so let's move on. So from this standpoint, let's have a quick discussion around this question. What are our prescribed duties applicable to us? How do we know what is our prescribed duty in each situation? It's not a straightforward question, right? And can we graduate to Paradharma without perfecting Apara Dharma? Is it that first we have to ace all the duties and then we get graduate to the other one? Or is it something that, it's not a linear function where you graduate from one to another? And then how do we know what is the prescribed duty applicable to us in any situation? Anybody who wants to take that? Okay, we'll get to that. Yes, Sandhya, you wanted to do that? So let me add a little more color to this discussion. Yes, go ahead, Sandhya.
Okay. So I think our major prescribed duty, the major Swadharma, is to serve the whole, and whatever enables us to do that, if there is any minimal requirement to enable our body to ultimately help our soul serve the whole, we should be doing that. And if that's how I see it. So Paradharma is the bigger thing, and whatever Paradharma is required to support Paradharma is what we should.
Yeah, that's true. Paradharma obviously takes precedence, right? Once we have woken up to the knowledge, if we have come in contact, like we have been fortunate enough to come in contact with a saint, right? Shrotriya Brahmanisht, and they have given us, imparted us the knowledge, planted the seed of devotion, then of course Paradharma takes precedence, right? But because we are operating in this world, we have to balance it out with the other aspect, just because we have to operate effectively in this world. But whenever these two dharmas are at loggerheads, Paradharma takes precedence, right? That's why Swamiji always tells us, you could basically everything that you do, even in office and stuff like that, do it, so that you can justify your paycheck for as much as is needed. But beyond that, spend your time in seva and sadhana. That's the prescription he always gives, right? So that means Paradharma takes precedence. And one of the questions somebody was asking, my duty towards my material parents, right? Sometimes I feel I'm doing enough. Sometimes I feel guilty. Sometimes I feel that, am I doing all that I'm supposed to do? And he said it brings tears to my eyes as well. So Swamiji said that if you think deeply about it, what about your duty towards your spiritual parents? And the day you will have that realization, again the tears will come down your eyes. What have we done? It has been the most one-sided relationship we have ever had. Right? In Hindi movies, it happens, one-sided love. That is the kind of relationship we have had with our spiritual parents, where it's only take, but without having any sense of gratitude or thinking, we have some kind of a duty towards them as well. That's so beautifully explained by him. Yes, Rahul?
Can we take a question? There is a question in chat from Lakshmiji, or do we want to take it?
Sure, we can. Yeah, we can.
So she says, how can we know where do we stand and what are our duties?
How do we know where do we stand with regards to our spiritual progress?
I think so.
Only God and Guru can know that. Okay, I'd asked this question as well. Swamiji told very clearly. Only God and Guru would know that. But yeah, I mean, there are certain yardsticks will give us some kind of an idea about how are we progressing or are we regressing, in the sense that you can see, is your detachment from the world is increasing? Is your attachment towards God has increased? Is your tolerance, forbearance has increased? Is your let go is increasing? The anxiety level are dipping. So these are some of the symptoms where you can tell that you are on the right path. But if the journey is this much and where you are in that trajectory, only God and Guru can know. There's no way for us to know that. And knowing dharma is a big term. It's not an easy thing to know, right? I mean, even Bhishma Pitama could not get it right. Even Karan couldn't get it right. So who are we to get it right? You can only take a best guess. See, at a broader level, we know when we are a student, we are supposed to study, right? That becomes our duty. When we get into an occupation, we do it to the best of our ability, whichever occupation we are in. And then, of course, when we grow up as an adult, and then there's a stage when our proportion of time that we are spending in spiritual activities has to increase. But if we keep on getting deeply and deeply entrenched in the world with our kids, with our grandkids, and that process continues, then of course we are not on the right path. So those are some of the things we can align to, but it's very difficult to know what our dharma is. We can let our intuition guide us if we continue to progress, and at the same time continue to have purity of intention. That is our insurance policy around it. But as we progress spiritually, typically, you'll start off kind of getting sense, okay, in this kind of a situation, this would be the right thing to do, and leave it to God the rest. So, but yeah, it's very difficult. I mean, you can't put a booklet and say, this is a higher dharma, right? How do you know what is a higher dharma in a particular situation? Very difficult. Right? It is said that for the sake of a family, an individual can be sacrificed. For the sake of a city, a family can be sacrificed. So that becomes your higher dharma. Higher dharma, for the sake of a country, even a city can be sacrificed. And for the sake of the globe, even a country can be sacrificed. So which is a higher dharma in a given situation? It's very difficult to understand that part. Yes, Pallaviji?
Radhe Radhe, Nitinji, Radhe Radhe, good evening, everyone. So for a long time, I struggled to understand what is Swadharma, and it took me quite so long to understand. And after when I started attending Bhagavad Gita classes, and when I started reading and listening to Swamiji's lectures, I got to understand this, that my only Swadharma is to serve God and to learn to love God.
Yes.
And this is something I felt, Nitinji, was so tough for us, especially for me. I felt that conditioned soul like me, who is chasing desire all the time. So our mind is thinking in that way, that we are always chasing something to find happiness somewhere. So to bring our mind to this thought that we have to do any of our duty, whatever we are stationed in life at this point, with God in center, so that it gives us purification in our mind, to bring purification in our duty. So first path will be just to become gradually to become a karma yogi, and then we can learn to become more towards like completely loving to God. I mean, I hope I can do that as soon. I should be able to progress that in my lifetime. That's what I keep praying to God every day.
Beautiful, Pallaviji. I mean, you have the intent, right? So God is there, seated within you. He will continue to guide you, and it's with great fortune we come across, gurus, saints, mentors in life, and
Yes.
it's like hitting a jackpot. We all have, and there's no reason why we can't make the most out of it. Just keep your enthusiasm going. I think it'll be pretty awesome. I see Swamiji. Somebody has named Swamiji. Is it truly Swamiji? Swamiji, if you're there, namaskara. It'll be a pleasant surprise if that's the case.
Radhe Radhe. I named my name.
Okay. I thought Swamiji is surprising. He has come to our session once, so just want to be safe. All right. So let's, Ankurji, are you around? I'm going to give it to Ankurji, and then we can come back and think about, why did this coffee spill? Okay, this is a very important question to know, because I'm just building up a suspense around that. Why did this coffee spill? So Ankurji, if you're around, I'll hand it over to you for the presentation, and then we can come back to that, time permitting. Otherwise, we always have another week, right? So I'm going to stop share and hand it over to you. Let's.
Radhe Radhe.
So,
am I audible?
yes, you are audible. Are you able to share?
I don't know how to share this, right? I mean,
No, do you have share privileges? Share screen should be there at the bottom.
He's the co-host. You should have the share screen on the bottom of your phone or the laptop.
I can see this share screen, but I don't know how to.
You just need to click on share screen, and then you share the screen or the presentation that you have.
It's on the WhatsApp.
Oh, you are on WhatsApp, so okay. You want to send me the presentation, or you want me to open it?
Is it possible if in case you can open? Maybe.
Okay, let me try to open that. Give me a sec.
In the meantime, Nitinji, can I make...
You can make the announcements in the meantime. Let's utilize this time to make the announcements.
So, Radhe Radhe everyone. As all of you might be knowing, the Navratri Mahotsav is being organized at the RKT Dallas. So it is happening from 23rd September to October 4th. And we can visit that, we can enjoy all those festivities from the comfort of our home also. And whoever is around the Dallas area, they should definitely try to visit the temple. Apart from that, during this Navratri week, we will be having a special Navratri series session also, where we will be chanting Mahishasur Mardani Stotra and learning the meaning and practice the correct way of chanting it. So you are all welcome to join that. It will be Monday to Friday at 6:30 a.m. Central Time, which will be 5 p.m. in the evening in India. The links are already in the chat, but I will post it again. Apart from that, if somebody is in the Bay Area, Swamiji's week-long life transformation program is happening starting from tomorrow, September 24th to 30th in Sunnyvale, California. So you can also check out the website. The links are there in the chat, but I will again post it, and you are free to go there and attend the program. Apart from that, yeah, we will be having a Shraddh, I think a Shraddh Puja at the Radha Krishna temple on September 25th at 1:30 p.m. So the details are there on the website, and I will post it again in the chat. So feel free to join on that also. I think that's it from the announcement section. And apart from the USA programs, we have the Swamiji's India tour also, mainly the centenary year celebration of Swami Maharajji, and then the sadhana shivers. So you can check out the website. I think the centenary year celebrations, the registrations are now open, but for all the others, you might have to wait, but still you can check out the website regularly. Are we good, Nitinji? Yeah.
Yes. Are you able to see my screen?
Yes.
Over to you, Ankurji. You can do that. I'm happy to play the slides for you. So I think we have about 15 minutes to wrap it up.
So, Radhe Radhe, everybody. I would be covering a presentation for all of you. So, which is how to stop judging others. So, next slide, please. So, the presentation's outline is basically the introduction part. What is judging others? The story. There would be one story, a scriptural verse related to your Bhagavad Gita. Uh, Tools how to stop judging others. There is a learning and experience which I would be sharing from my own side. Swamiji's quote, and I would give up, open it for the audience for a discussion for everybody. Next slide, please. So, what is judging? Basically, it's a tendency of finding faults in someone or something and discussing negative about others. It's basically a negative gossiping, which on the next stage goes on to a negative gossiping thing. Next slide. So, and why do we judge others? Mind, we have all attended a lot of sessions. Uh, Mind is basically, it's a monkey mind. It gives an instant gratification, satisfies our ego. Next slide, please. Uh, why, uh, why we should not judge others? I mean, it is, if in case we are judging others, we are just pointing uh, to ourselves. It's not that we are judging the person, it's our own thought process which is getting magnified in a negative sense. It's basically we are labeling others. You know, Swamiji has a book named as Power of Thoughts, wherein he terms this thing as judging others as labeling, wherein we would judge others by saying that he is stupid, maybe she is stupid, or we would label with something others. Next slide, please. It basically increases our own mistake. And over here, if in case, judging a person does not define who they are, it defines who you are. So we tend to focus and speak in other people's eyes when we are having a log in our own eyes. Next slide, please. Next slide. So the cons of judging are that it increases our pride. It's a cycle basically, and takes our mind away from God. We stop seeing, divine divinity around us by judging others. It increases basically our own fault. When we might be judging for something wrong, we might not be knowing the whole complete story around it. Uh, so these are the cons of judging. Next slide, please. So basically, if in case you see this person, uh, he's born with the disabilities, and people would have judged him as good for nothing. Uh, Next slide, please. So now this is a person who's been a part of Paralympics team in archery. His name is Max Fitzman. He's silver medal in 2012 Paralympics, and no one would have thought that he would have done archery. He would have won the prize, silver medal. So, not having hands, uh, you know, it's a part of adversity. With those adversities around him, people would have judged that. No, people would have mocked in a real life scenario. But this was a world record, longest accurate shot in archery. You can, the first thought it judges is how would this person, even achieve this feat. Even for that matter, start doing archery or practicing. Next slide, please. So there is a scriptural verse in Bhagavad Gita which teaches us. Uh, I would be very. It would be very difficult for me to speak this verse. Maybe if in case I could just cover the uh, understanding part of this verse. The yogis look upon all as well-wishers, friends, foes, the pious and the sinners with an impartial intellect. The yogi uh, who is equal of intellect towards friend, companion, and foe, neutral among enemies and relatives, and unbiased between the righteous and sinful is considered to be distinguished among the humans. And next slide, please. So, coming to the tools, how we should stop judging others is, we should check yourself rather than seeing faults in others. The immediate action that we should take is throw it out, throw that, uh, the analogy is which Swamiji gives in his book and one of his lectures is that, when we are cleaning rice, there are foreign particles would come. So these thought processes of judging others is a thought process like that foreign particle which is coming. You just throw them out on the spot. As a thought process, what we can do is we could see God in others. If you can see divine souls, if you're not able to see God in others, see them as divine souls. If you can't see them as divine souls, see good in them. And we all are part of, supreme divinity. So we should keep that in mind. Next slide. So there is a three-step process which I've taken from the book Power of Thoughts. So these three steps are like basically it's a sakshi bhav which we emphasizing on, are distancing our self from the mind and the thoughts. We are not our mind, neither our thought. We can distance. We should practice this distancing ourselves from the mind and the thought. Uh, it is basically detaching ourselves. This helps in surfing the emotions, whatever emotions we are going. And then, second step should be to replace with positive thoughts. That can again lead to creation of positive thoughts again and again. And Swamiji gives an example, quotes an example from Bible as well and other scriptures also, which are emphasizing of not judging others. Judge not, lest you be judged. Uh, this is a quote from Bible. And never let your mind gravitate in fault finding or judgment. Next slide. So basically, I would share my own experience of a life. Uh, when I was, I would judge my parents actually, to be honest with you. I would just give an instance. Uh, at times what used to happen was when I would be a lone child in the house, there would be someone who would be coming. Maybe some other person has done something wrong. Maybe, I would immediately judge their own capacity. Why are they, pointing finger to me or something like that? And once I grew up, when I started maturing, then I understood that it was uh, finding my own thing. Not looking up to others at what they are doing. It was a mature way of, putting etiquettes or maybe manners, or maybe getting a good upbringing. But at that one time, it would be very tough for me to understand and you know, that why are they doing this thing, or why can't they find the good in, I mean those things. I hope you could relate to that. Next slide, please. So Swamiji, he has given a quote. The divine knowledge bestows a vision so different from physical sight. We are endowed with divine knowledge. Devotees see all living beings as eternal souls who are fragments of God and sorry, uh, who are fragments of God and therefore view them with an equal eye. Uh, next slide. Next slide. So I would like to open for the discussion in case to ponder over the point, be lenient with others and be strict with yourself. How can you implement this while facing negative people? And have you labeled someone wrongly? Is it based on first impression or external behavior? You can share it.
Great. Thank you, Ankurji. That was very nice, and thank you for taking initiative. On this presentation, I know you. It was short notice, and you said, "All right, I'll go with it." So really appreciate you, and you've been a very regular in Bhagavad Gita sessions, and it's great to have you on these sessions. We'd love to hear more often from you. And it was a very nicely articulated. I think you put in a lot of thought around it, very nicely structured as well. So beautiful presentation, and it's a very relevant topic, right? This is one of the things our mind likes, right? Judging, right? Swamiji says that unless you are a lawyer, teacher, or probably one more occupation, he makes an exception, right? You're a lawyer, teacher, or probably a parent, then you shouldn't be judging. And it's very easy for our mind to fall into the trap of judging others. So that's one beautiful saying he says, that is, when we look at bad in others, your good becomes bad. And when we look at good in others, your bad starts becoming good. So that's how it goes. But thank you again. Very nice presentation, Ankurji. And like I said, we'd love to hear more from you as we go along. So thank you again. Appreciate it so much.
Thank you.
Yes. How much time do we have? Do we have time? I think we do. We do have about 9 minutes. So we can do a few more things. Yes, Rahul, you wanted to say something?
Yeah, we have some questions in the chat. Do you want
Sure.
to use those?
Yeah, sure. Yes.
So one of the questions from Ramesh ji was, shall we perform all Apara Dharma keeping God as support?
Shall we perform all Paradharma, you're saying, right? So this
All
question,
Aparadharma, yeah.
yeah, if we can perform it, sure. But then it should not be an excuse to run away from the world. We will talk about Falgu, Vairagya, Karam, Akaram, Vikaram concepts as well. Yes, if we are situated in the knowledge and that is all we want to do, and then Paradharma, of course, takes precedence over everything else. Because as a soul, serving and loving God, there's nothing better or bigger than that for sure. Right? But because we are not there, we have karmic backlogs, we have our own vasanas in our head, our own fundas of life. Until we exhaust those, we will continue to engage ourselves in this world, and Maya will make us dance. And finally, when we become Sharanagati to, one realized saint with great fortune, once we meet, that's when I think the things will start falling in place. So yes, Paradharma takes precedence, but then it's something should not be used as an excuse to run away from your duties. It's not like the other day we turn our back and say, all right, now become Gautam Buddha, I'm leaving you tonight. Yes, if call of God has come, sure, but call of God also comes to people who have developed enough dispassion, detachment, and equanimity towards the world. So running away from the world, the simple yardstick that Maharajji, Swamiji gives is, if you run away from the world thinking that there is a lot of miseries here, then it is not the right way. When you are situated in the knowledge that this world has neither happiness nor misery, and then you reject the world, then it is a true vairagya, a true proper way of actually relinquishing your apara or the lower duty. It's not that you're running away, that is just too much of trouble here. That is the key thing here. Any other questions, Rahul?
Yeah, one more from Surinderji. Killer as an agent of Yamdev need not to be punished, as the death is as per the granted life term only.
Sorry, I didn't get the complete question.
Surinderji asked, killer as an agent of Yamdev need not to be punished, as the death is as per the granted life term only.
See, that's also part of that, right? I mean, if that killer gets punished, see, there are two laws which are in operation, right? One is the spiritual law, and the first one, and then you have a material law as well. We try to align that to a perfect justice system as best as humans we can. So every country has a law of the land, and if they flout that law, there are consequences around it. There are capital punishments in certain countries if you kill somebody. Now, God's law will anyway take care, but in material world also there are laws so that rules are obtained, right? Now, rules are followed. If we say that, let's not have any traffic lights, if somebody has to get killed, so be it. That will not work, right? God has given us a framework, and then we do our best to interpret that framework and put certain things so that there is an order in society. If that would be the case, then there would absolutely be no order in the society. We can simply say, law of karma is going to take care of it, so why should I bother? And under that excuse, we will commit and do whatever we want. So that is probably the way to look at it. We do our best. We try to align to the principles, higher principles, as we can understand, especially when we come in contact with true knowledge and a guru, and refrain from things that can be downgrading for our soul, which includes killing somebody. Killing somebody is basically finishing off their vehicle which God has endowed them for their spiritual journey. And even killing ourselves is the same thing, finishing off the vehicle that God has endowed us to continue to progress on our journey. So that is the real way of looking at it. Now coming back to, do we have time? We had about 5 minutes. So why did coffee spill? Anybody want to answer that? I want to quickly take that to wrap up our conversation. Why did coffee spill? And I'll give you an answer, and then we can mull over it and then continue on our discussion. Why did the coffee spill? Any question, any answer anybody wants to give for a couple of minutes?
Radhe Radhe Levani ji, please go ahead.
Radhe Radhe. I know the answer, but want to maintain the intrigue, so will not answer.
What answer?
I will maintain the suspense, will not give the answer. I know this answer from Swamiji's book.
Okay. Shikhaji wants to. I can see her after a while, so.
Radhe Radhe Nitinji, how are you?
Good to see you back. Welcome back.
Thank you so much. So I just want to say that the coffee was not rightly placed.
Fair enough. It was not rightly placed. Very true. And that is why it came in contact with the hand, right? And it fell down. Yes.
Yeah. I mean, I can make a story out of it, but I think this is just a sentence I can say right now.
So yeah, you can make a story out of it. And you know what? We'll keep the suspense for next week and,
yes.
And tie it back to the shloka. Okay.
Sure. Yes.
Tie back to Bhagavad Gita, right? And there's a reason why coffee spell, and there's, and we'll tie it back to the Lord Krishna's teachings around it as well. Okay, real quick, we have how many minutes? 3 more minutes, maybe. Couple of hands.
Radhe Radhe Padma ji, please go ahead.
Radhe Radhe. Just few thoughts. Obviously, we are not God realized and maybe not even self-realized. But I think the beauty of spirituality and the grace of God is He's not punishing us for not being God realized already, and neither He will punish for our effort. So I think every situation and everything which comes our way, unless we are God realized, there is no clear clarity of this is what our dharma is. But at least if you try to contemplate on your responsibilities, duties, thoughts, and actions as an effort, a sincere, genuine, deliberate effort, which is not coming from your mind, but coming from your heart, which means you're trying your best not to do your responsibilities, not to do your duties, not to put your thoughts, not to put your actions either out of anger or fear or comparison or greed. Is it perfect? It will not be perfect overnight, but if you perfection is just in the process of trying and having that trust in God that give me that conviction and the strength that my duties and my responsibilities and the decisions and the choices that you're making for self and whoever is around you for a bigger purpose, if that purpose and the decision is to bring them back to spirituality. If you have to make a decision and a commitment and a conviction in a situation, either for self or for somebody else, and if eventually with time, with space, and with situation, if that situation or person can be brought back to spirituality, brought back to the lotus feet of God, that time and persistent patience is worth it to go after the cause so that you can bring yourself back to God. You can bring that situation or person back to God. Ultimately, every responsibility, every duty, every action, if you can bring us back to spirituality, then I think that is the closest thing one can try in the state that we are in with this body and with this conditioned mind that we have. And that effort, that genuine, conscious, spiritual, conscious, true effort, God does notice. And how do you know? You experience that when you're peaceful and blissful with your decision, and you're able to give that situation and the person some love from your heart but not from your mind. You know that you're going in the right direction, and the nature works with you. That's the way that you know that you're going somewhere. When your consciousness and your mind is disturbed, your inner feelings will tell you. If you're sweating, you're agitated, you're not calm, something is really bothering you, that is the signal of the sign and the heart saying you're going in the wrong direction, which we might say self-consciousness, or in Telugu we call it Atma Sakshi. That is always telling you, like,
Time check, Padmaji, quick 10 o'clock. So yes.
yeah, so that's it.
All right. No, that's fair point. I think you can probably elaborate more on the portal, because I know you have a lot of inputs around this topic. So please do, we are going to create a thread around that, and you can put in all that stuff on portal. I think others can benefit from it as well. Kumarji, unfortunately, we have run out of time. We have the next session. So we can give you first right of refusal next time around. So thank you, everybody. Radhe Radhe, and have a wonderful weekend. I look forward to seeing you next week, and we will talk about why did coffee spill. Okay. And Karam Yoga is going to be the theme next week. So Radhe Radhe, have a wonderful day and rest of your weekend, and over to Sunil Bhai and Ajay for the book club session then.
Beautiful. Radhe Radhe.